I met Darrell Saunders, the way you often meet other compatriots when you are travelling. I'd gone to Cartagena, Colombia, taking a much-needed break from my job as a programmer in the States. It's a comfortable place, enough like the US not to be unsettling, and yet a universe away from what passed for my normal life. I'd been staying in the old walled city for about a week, long enough to find a few favourite places and get to know a few people. One of the absolutely best places I found to enjoy the sunset was a bar called El Bulate de San Francisco. It is perched on the wall. It used to be a restaurant, and still serves some overpriced food, but mostly it's an open-air bar with a great view. The city is amazing. The Spaniards founded it in 1533, but it took until 1796 to build its walls, which were for protection from pirates. It was, after all, a key port for the export of Peruvian silver to Spain and for the import of African slaves. Now the old city is one giant museum and tourist attraction. Sitting there, in the humid evening air, enjoying a glass of 18-year-old Glenfiddich on the rocks, and looking out over the city and the boats moored at docks is surreal. I could look down on 500-year-old Spanish buildings nearby, and with a small turn of my head see a new wall, one made of modern high-rise buildings. Right at sunset, the sun gleams off the metal, and glass of new buildings gleam. Then, as the sky darkens rapidly, the lights come on. It's a glorious transition from shimmering modernity to a wonderland where everything sparkles. And through it all, in the city below me, a horde of tourists, both Colombian and foreigners, are taking it all in, swarmed by vendors and hustlers selling hats, food, all sorts of souvenirs and promises of tours to magnificent beaches the next day. Beaches can be nice, but I was content in my chair and watching it all. Diego, my waiter, smiled and brought my second drink without me asking. He was good at his job. The ice he put in the glass was a single large sphere. That minimizes the surface area of the ice and manages to cool the precious single malt without watering it down too quickly. That's important when you are outdoors in a heat that persists long after the sun sets. As usual, I was drinking alone. Just as Diego had proven himself a good, no, an excellent waiter, I had been an ideal customer. In appreciation of my generous tips, he made sure that I was seated well away from the speakers that could, at times, crank out raucous music, with the volume increasing as it got later in the evening. Unlike many who came there, I wanted to relax and savour my drink, for now the music was soft jazz, and I felt as mellow as the saxophone solo I could hear in the night air. This is a crowded area, and the ebb and flow of the crowd brings different people in and out of your circle, your awareness. Given that, it was no surprise when a man came in, walked over to my table and asked if he could share my table. "The families are filling up the place," he said. I looked up to see a man I guessed to be in his 50s. He was clean-shaven, medium height, and dressed in a loose shirt, shorts, and sandals, the uniform of the tropical expat. His request seemed reasonable, so I nodded. "Help yourself." As I said the words, I knew they were true. Suddenly, the idea of having company, of having an English speaker to talk to, appealed to me. Conversation is a strange and complex exchange. I've often been amazed to find that expats and travellers who meet in some far-flung place will happily tell each other things that no one in their right mind would admit to if they were back wherever they escaped from. Perhaps it's a need to form bonds. Maybe it's a way of staking out who they are. Perhaps it's the release of confessing, in some way, to a perfect stranger. Whatever it is, we all seem to become chatty Cathys when we are abroad, and Darrell was no exception. He sat down, ordered a drink from Diego, who gave him a disapproving scowl that he ignored, and opened up to me. In that flood of words I learned a great deal.